Hi, it's Eric here talking with Finish People. In my last video, which I had to cut a little short because I got a phone call, I established that thinking and feeling align with means and ends based prioritization, respectively. This is clearly the case because the thinking mechanism is one that uses consistency as its evaluatory device, whereas feeling uses I'd say impacts as its evaluatory device. So the reason the thinker uses consistency primarily is because it, as a default setting, understands that the strongest arguments are mechanism arguments. Namely, don't worry so much about what this particular individual application of law will have in terms of impacts without thinking about the impact it's going to have on the underlying engine of society. You aren't really considering the impacts. You think you are because those are the things that you feel strongly about. Well, this person is suffering. That person is poor. This income inequality is this wide, or whatever. So I think income inequality is a perfect example. You've got feelers who cannot get past the fact that it seems and feels and some level is extremely unfair that one or two people would have so much money and then all these thousands and hundreds of thousands of people would have as much money as those two people combined or something like that. It does seem extremely unfair, except for the fact that, number one, you don't need that much money. If you are a reasonable person, then you're not looking at somebody who's super rich and saying, that's not fair, they have so much money. You're looking at someone who's super rich and saying, what a complete waste of time. Why do you need that much money? You spend so much energy of your life devoted towards compiling this fortune, but I mean, you're no happier than you would have been if you had had a tenth of it, because what is it you need to buy? I mean, you're giving it away and stuff, or just investing for more money and more money and more money. What do you actually want to buy? What do you actually want to spend money on? How much money do you need to spend? The amount of money that gets you everything you want, that will make you actually happier. So for me, that means if I were to be just incredibly spendthrift, I'd get a bunch of different kind of tools, media tools, musical equipment, stuff like that I might want to use. And then those would basically be one-time purchases. I'd probably get some video cameras and fancy fucking media tools too, like visual media tools. And that would again be basically a one-time purchase. I would get a nice home that's sufficiently large, but not a mansion or anything. I don't need a mansion. And would have ideally a fairly large lot because I like to be on open land, ideally. And then that would be a one-time purchase. I would then go buy more houses. I would need more houses. I'd probably buy a car that's as comfortable as I could possibly find, because I'm a believer in vehicle comfort, not vehicle tight suspension, stuff like that. It makes you uncomfortable. So I'd probably buy one of those, and then I'd go out to eat a lot, and I'd eat at relatively nice restaurants. I wouldn't go eat fucking Ruth's Chris every night, but that's just because I wouldn't want to eat that every night. Sometimes I want something else. If I had infinite money, there's no reason not to, but I buy my cigarettes and I buy my fast food, and that'll be it. I mean, what else do I need? I don't need anything else. If I had an urge to buy something, maybe I'd buy it, but I'm not going to go on trips around the world. I'm not going to buy a gold-plated jacuzzi filled with fucking Dom Perignon champagne to bathe in, since I don't drink. I'm not going to hire prostitutes and have a cocaine party. I'm not going to buy exotic animals and have a zoo at my house like Michael Jackson did. I'm not going to whatever other stupid shit people who get rich do. It's stupid. I've never done any of those things. Why not? Because I have enough sense to realize that those things are not going to improve my life. Now, there might be some crazy project that I think will improve my life that I will spend money on, and maybe the point should be, well, Eric, it's not your money, so you don't get to decide whether it's a waste of their money or not. They get to decide that. That's absolutely true. I do get to decide whether I think it's a waste of money based on my perspective, and I definitely do think it's a waste of money based on my perspective, because you don't need a zoo at your house. You don't need a zoo at all. We don't need zoos at all. Why are we keeping animals in cages? Why are we keeping anything in cages? I don't like that. None of my animals are in cages, including the guinea pigs. They're free range. So, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, thinking and feeling stuff. So thinking and feeling, like that, means and ends. We have political differences because feelers don't get mechanisms, and thinkers don't understand why feelers are so fixated on impacts that are conditional. Now let's look at the N and the S. So I've mentioned before that I think N is a person's relationship to truth. I still believe that to be the case, but I will also point out this, that N is going to be the way that we pick up on whatever it is we pick up on. So if we're extroverted intuitors with, and it's somewhere in the stack, and where let's say it's got introverted thinking. Let's talk about an INTP. Which is TINESIFE. So that cognitive stack, what is S doing and what is N doing? Well, TI is saying I'm means focused. I'm looking for mechanism arguments. I'm trying to figure out the mechanical interactions of reality, the various components of reality, including human behavior, such that I feel confident about my identity going into the world. You'll notice, what do INTPs and ENTPs do that's opposite? One of which is good and one of which is bad. Neither the INTP nor the ENTP has a good sense of the permanence and reality and concreteness of their own identity, and they don't see it as something that is very well defined. They don't understand who they are really in a clear sense, and a clear label. Like we don't find the labels that people normally have as very satisfying. And we don't have the experiencing of behavioral patterns itself as a satisfying means of achieving or determining identity. And we don't, and whatever our reward mechanism is, like for us, for me, it's FE, that provides the guidance about who I am when it's operating properly, in the sense that it says, well, you're the guy that's useful to those people and useful to these people, and those people like you and those people like you, and then so you can feel okay about yourself. You must exist for them to like you, and you must be not a bad person, or else they wouldn't like you. And that's how I know my identity, is by expressing outward to everybody and saying, validate me, because my FE is in the third slot, so I'm competent in it. For the INTP, though, with FE in the fourth slot, they are not saying validate me. They are saying don't look at me, because you're going to realize that I have no identity. And it doesn't really matter to me if I have no identity, because there's this weird thing that I don't really understand called other people's feelings. And as long as you keep them in check, and you don't actually make people mad at you or make people cry, and as long as basically they think you're a nice person and you can act like that and stuff, well, then you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it, because that's the only thing identity is anyway, is whether or not other people get mad at you. And so all I gotta do is keep all this shit secret, everything about me secret, my identity secret, and then nobody will realize that I don't actually have an identity. Well, INTPs, that's the wrong approach. It's the wrong approach. I know, you were supposed to be like, well, your way is equal to my way, just different. No, your way is inferior to my way, and it's not just different, it's worse. It doesn't mean I don't have equivalent things where my way is worse than yours. And of course it's worse. Why is it worse? Because you have FE in a lower slot, and it's an FE related thing. So because you're bad with FE, your understanding of ends, like, is very, very weak. Understanding means is very strong. Mechanisms are strong. You want to settle on ends. You want to settle on conclusive things because you have no intuitive conception of ends, except as that thing that gets in the way of your focusing on means. Whereas, for me, I can incorporate both because it's 2-3 in my thoughts. On the other hand, what you can incorporate both of, which I can't, is both disruption and regulation concurrently. So that means basically you are able to treat as equally accessible both your focus on means and your focus on ends are not, no, I'm sorry, you can't focus those things equally accessible. In fact, you can't focus them concurrently at all. To focus on one is to the exclusion of the other. But on the inside part, you can do what I can't do, which is disrupt and regulate at the same time, which means you are able to take a disruptive approach towards problem solving and say, well, where are the weaknesses in the energy sustaining the problem? And you're able to take a direct solvency approach that relies on proven methods. That, well, last time we tried this, they tried that. I watched this show where I saw these guys do this, and they did it like that, and we're going to do like that. We'll have the same result. As it's well established in the literature, doesn't need to be. I can't stand doing it the same way again. Even if it worked perfectly last time, that's not the point. Because like the INTP, I'm means focused, not ends focused. However, I'm able to incorporate ends more into my thinking because F is a little higher in the equation. So that's why, for example, I express, and part of the reason why I express a lot and INTP doesn't express so much is because for me, I want to have the ends just like a feeler does, but because it's in my third slot, I want to have them in just that one little area. You know, it's like it's going to be limited to my reward function. It's going to be limited to making sure my disruption and my rendering are not making people too pissed off, and I'll be successful enough at it that I won't have any need to hide. So that's my little analysis on that stuff today, and I hope you enjoyed it, because every word of it was 100% true to the exclusion of all other truths.